Which was Louis Sachar? Mr. Pendanski asked. Barfast slept here, then X-ray, kicking at one of his beds. All right, Stanley. That'll be yours, said Mr. Pendanski. Stanley looked at the cot and nodded. He wasn't particularly thrilled about sleeping in the same cot that had been used by somebody named Birthbag. 7 crates were stacked in 2 piles at one side of the tent. The open end of the crate faced outward. Stanley put his backpack, change of cloth, and towel in what used to be Barkback's crate. It was at the bottom of a stack that had 3 in it. Squid returned with 4 other boys. The first 3 were introduced by Mr. Pendanski as Rose, Theodore, and Ricky. They called themselves Markneck, Armpit, and Zigzag. They all have nicknames, explained Mr. Pendanski. However, I prefer to use the names their pictures gave them, the names that socially would recognize them by when they returned became useful and hardworking members of society. It ain't just a nickname, X-ray told Mr. Pendanski. He tapped his rim of his glasses. I can see inside you, Mom. You've got a big, fat heart. At last, boy either didn't have a real name or else he didn't have a nickname. Both Mr. Pendanski and X-ray called him Zero. You know why his name's Zero? Asked Mr. Pendanski. Because there is nothing inside his head. He smiled and playfully shook Zero's shoulder. Zero said nothing. And that's Mom, a boy said. Mr. Pendanski smiled at him. If it makes you feel better to call me Mom, Theodore, go ahead and call me Mom. He turned to Stanley. If you have questions, Theodore will help you. You got that, Theodore? I'm depending on you. Theodore spit a thin line of saliva between his teeth, causing some of the other boys to complain about the need to keep their home sanitary. You were all new here once, said Mr. Pendanski, and you all know what it feels like. I'm counting on every one of you to help Stanley. Stanley looked at the ground. Mr. Pendanski left the tent, and soon the other boys began to file up as well, taking their towels and chains of cloth with them. Stanley was relieved to be left alone, but he was so thirsty he felt as if he would die if he didn't get something to drink soon. Hey, Theodore, he said, going after him. Do you know where I can fill my canteen? Theodore wheeled and grabbed Stanley by his collar. My name is not Theodore, he said. I'm Armpit. He threw Stanley back to the ground. Stanley stared at him, terrified. There is the water. Speak out on the water in the shower still. Thanks, Armpit, said Stanley. As he watched the boy turn and walked away, he couldn't, for the life of him, figure out why anyone would want to be called Armpit. In a way, it made him feel a little better about having to sleep in a cot that had been used by somebody named Birthbag. Maybe it was a time to respect.